Okay, welcome back now. Whose responsibility is it to keep our children safe from predators and child trafficking syndicates? And are the police doing enough to protect the young ones? Well, earlier this week, my colleague Sally Burdett interviewed the police minister, Mayke Huijbregts, and this is how he answered that question.
Of Ivory Park, the oldest that has been a victim is 8, Sally. The youngest is 3. I haven't heard anybody asking where were the parents, where was the family when these 3 went amiss. I don't hear those questions.
Are you blame shifting? Are you blame shifting, Minister? Because I'm asking you about policing. I'm not asking you about parenting. That is an entirely different conversation with an entirely different minister.
Absolutely not blame shifting. That's why the problem is not going to be, if the problem is allocated and is not made the societal problem, that all of us who become responsible on the matter is not going to help us. Police that are not doing their work must face the music. In Ivory Park, I know for sure that the child that was found in the ship being naked, 2 people are arrested, are appearing in court. We are very hopeful about the case that happened recently. But as a minister, as a community leader, I'm not shifting the blame, but I would like all of us to make that call to say, including parents, including families, including friends, that we all take the serious responsibility of the children.
Well, the minister there saying parents must be more responsible. A short while ago, Major General Bafana Linda telling us on his phone that society has to play its role, not just the law enforcers. Depressingly, though, abusive people continue to prey on those who are most vulnerable in our communities, and that, unfortunately, includes our beloved children. From child trafficking to abuse at home and bullying. Today, we're focusing on violence against children, especially during the lockdown. And, of course, we know from the police that children as well are guilty, sometimes like cyberbullying, of committing violence against one another. Joining us now via Skype as we continue our discussion is Mayke Huijbregts from Unicef South Africa. And we've got here in Durban, rather in our studios, Dumisile Nala from Childline South Africa. And with me in the studio, I've got Steve Miller, the CEO of Save the Children. He already shared some of his views as we started this discussion. But for now, I would like to bring on Ms. Dumisile Nala from Childline. Ms. Nala, good morning. Thank you very much for your time and happy Heritage Day to you. But it's not a happy situation for our children year in and year out. Week in and week out, we hear about these horrific incidents of violence like the 2 young ones who were killed in Orange Farm in Johannesburg, south of Johannesburg this week. But the police maintaining that is not just their role. You had the minister now, Mayke Huijbregts, and we had Major General Bafana Linda saying society must play its role. What's Childline's view?
Thank you for the opportunity. And of course, you're correct. It is Heritage Day. But when we look into the future, one has to wonder what kind of heritage will be our children celebrating based on what is going on and happening for them right now. To some extent, I do agree that it's everybody's responsibility to protect and ensure our children are safe. But I think the challenge is when we delegate responsibility to other people and when we are not critically looking at what we in our own space are doing to protect children. I think families, the society at large, they do play a huge role in protecting children. But also government and civil society like ourselves, we do have to play our part to ensure that resources are in place to respond. Resources are in place to ensure that we prevent abuse from happening, so that we are able to educate children themselves, parents, communities at large about child protection, how to keep safe, and what needs to be done if an abusive incident has taken place. I think, when you look at the police, of course, when it comes to the issues of prosecuting matters, the actual challenge starts from the beginning when communities go and report such cases. So it's very important to look at what response and what action is taken even right from that beginning when cases are reported, because that is where the case is built for a successful prosecution. So every aspect is important. And I think we're not even talking about the private sector. They have a huge role to play. For us as Childline, we are thinking of parents go and work somewhere. They might be working for government, they might be working for the private sector. And as an employer, what is your role? What are you doing to ensure that that parent, that mother, that father who's working for you, their children at home are safe? So it is really a societal or everybody's responsibility and call for action to protect our children. And I think we have been talking since even before lockdown that it is everybody's responsibility. But I think we have to act with intent and commitment, much as we have done with COVID, to deal with issues of children.
Ms. Nala, we'll try and we'll get into that later on to find out what can we do differently now going forward. Because correctly, as you said, we have been talking and talking, and the law, some of the laws have been changed and tweaked. And I just want to bring in Ms. Huijbregts from Unicef. Globally, when you look at South Africa, we are told that we are higher than the global average, Ms. Huijbregts, when it comes to violence against children in this country. How bad is the situation? How dire is it?
So in South Africa, 1 out of 3 children experience a form of abuse or violence before the age of 18. And the global average would be more 24%. And South Africa, we are facing a femicide against women, which is systematic killing of women, with losing a woman every 3 hours. And homicide against children is double the global average at 5.5 children per 100,000 inhabitants. So this is enormous, and the scourge derives really from a violent past over time. So what we have seen in South Africa is the intergenerational cycle of violence and abuse that spurs over into the current situation. What we saw during COVID and lockdown is a spike in DBV. So our executive director said that we faced a global health pandemic, but we are facing a global GBV pandemic. The impact of GBV on children, when they witness on a regular basis intimate partner violence with men hitting women, women as a consequence hitting their children, this is a kind of behavior that children copy. And what we saw last week with these girls hitting each other at the school is like a violent behavior that continues as a pattern. And that is the scourge we need to break at a very early age, starting with boys and girls talking about gender, rights, behavior, kindness, care, and nurturing one another. But break the whole cycle of patriarchy, of gender inequality, gender norms. So we really need to start going back to basics.
So the real cause, the root cause of this would be things like patriarchy and these endemic levels and systematic levels of violence right from the home to society. Hence, you're going to see children also acting up and acting out like that against one another because they can see it in their homes. Steve?
Yes, indeed. And I'd like to pick up on a point that my colleague Dumisile from Childline mentioned. This is a whole society approach. There's a system here, a child protection system involved in the prevention and from the point of when a child is abused all the way through to when somebody goes to jail and has the consequences for that. And this system is under extreme pressure right now. So what you see when a system's under pressure is people starting to push blame. And we see a little bit of that happening now. And we need to understand that there's weak points throughout the system. It needs to be properly funded, and we can get onto the solutions.
It's not about pushing blame or blaming others. It's about trying to work together to address the whole thing. And there are some people who are also irresponsible on social media who put stuff out like this hashtag Save the Children that's going around now. I wonder what are your views on that? Because some of it apparently is genuine, but the bulk of it, it's sensational, it's alarmist, and it's baseless.
So Dan, may I ask, do you have children?
Yes, my youngest child now is 20, almost 21.
But then you know. So every parent, their deepest fear is that their child is taken from them and there's nothing they can do. So when we see things like this on social media, it taps in to that really primal feeling of a father and a mother about their child. And we respond to this. So what we're seeing, and the Major General is entirely correct, there's no evidence of a statistical increase in child trafficking and kidnapping right now. But there's certainly a lot of activity on social media, and that's driving this discussion. And on one side, you know, that's a good thing, because it shines a light on what's happening, and it allows people like myself and my colleagues to talk about these issues and how you can stop it from happening. But on the other side, it can be deeply irresponsible, and it can create a lot of fear among people.
And can also divert resources from the law enforcers when there's falsehoods there. But it's important that we discuss the way very calmly what should we do going forward. Ms. Dumisile Nala of Childline, when she was talking a short while ago, she was talking about resources. We need that. Ms. Huijbregts as well, talking about we need to approach the whole thing from the root cause, not just piecemeal and work together. So there's an integrated approach that might be needed. What would that look like? What should we be doing? We'll try and delve into that when we continue this discussion here on Today. Stay with us.